All right, welcome to the show, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. How you doing? Hello. Good to see you. We're here. I think sound is okay. Are you hearing me? This should be smoother. I went out and got a direct connection to the Ethernet here, so hopefully this will be better. Um, Hello. What's happening, Motang Clan? Good to see you guys. Hello, everybody. Well, here, I just bring you guys in and just say hello to you in person. Hi, chat room. Um, it's a good day, I would say, to this morning, and I apologize if I'm off kilter on this. I just realized I haven't had like been able to get the Discord up, so if I'm missing anybody, Andrea, let me know. Hold on, I'll check. I just want to make sure I'm not because the staff chat wasn't readily available to me beforehand, so I don't want to. Well, I hope I'm not leaving a guest in the wings. I don't think so. I think we just got Phil's second hour. And Andrea, by the way, wishing you health and recovery and hope you're good and all that stuff. Just seeing all that for the first time too. Hi, how are you? Hello. Oh, Phil's not feeling up to par. Okay, so all right, right on. So we don't have guest scheduled today, which is actually very helpful because there's a lot of well, let's just say trending news to cover, and I'll do an hour of it today, and then I'll have my regular show this afternoon because I'm here with family and all that kind of stuff. If that's okay with everybody, we'll just do the main hour. Yeah, all right. Also, I was able to go and pick up some leave-in conditioner for my hair because, quite frankly, the flyaways, it was just becoming too much. So I finally got it under control, which is good. Which is where I also get, can I get Texas Paul on soon? Absolutely. Although I think Texas Paul and his upside down flag post was a little aggravating. I would just like to say, oh, let me bring you guys back in. Hi. Yeah, so as we say here, family first. And we have to. My son is the project manager for the decoration of the golf cart for the 4th of July parade tomorrow. Yeah, so it's a good time. Now there is a bunch of news to cover. Not the least of which is while it seems like Pod Save America and who else? It almost is just them at this point. I'm trying to think of the friendlies that are still on the oh my god freak out about the debate. Um, because everybody else who is, I think, is a frenemy, at best, and that would be the TYT crowd and all that stuff. They never liked Biden, so any chance they're going to pounce on it. They've never given him good press, and they're certainly not going to now. But yeah, well, democracy now has been a mess for a while, which is very sad because what they won't cover is beyond me. Um, and I'll show you some of exactly what I'm talking about today. Well, let's just jump straight in. So they just the Biden administration this morning put out this statement. I'm just going to kind of compare and contrast to what you're seeing in terms of what Biden's doing and what the Trump world is doing. They released this. They're doing very like what I would say is boring functional government stuff. Besides Biden scheduling a bunch of talks and fundraisers and that kind of stuff, normal campaign stuff. Again, I have a feeling that they were planning on capitalizing on a good debate performance with all the stuff they have scheduled. They didn't add these things to the schedule. There don't seem to be more of these things. They seem to be kind of standardized. And after the debate, the Biden and the people kind of closest to him have already moved on from it. Whether somebody else said he had a cold, which is clearly true because he had a sore throat, or he said him saying he was exhausted from flying, and he that kind of stuff. He didn't like they hadn't had a time to adjust to the time change. And again, he's still being president, so he's up talking to foreign leaders specifically. They're planning a meeting with Netanyahu and all that kind of stuff. So they probably played to the fact that he was up at odd hours, and that was a mistake. But it doesn't matter. On a substantive level, he won the debate, and that's increasingly sinking in as a reality. The fluctuation again. This should have been devastating. This should have wiped him off the map. In any, we often talk about in this um, many times stories about Trump should have knocked him out of the race a long time ago. They should literally. They should have, there are so many things that should have kicked him off the Republican ticket before he became one on it in 2016, much less how he behaved and then after. And and I get the nervousness that people have, but I got to tell you, it's there are so many things between now and election day, and even like Chris Hayes, who's usually one of the lags to come along when things get fixed, was saying today that there was no perceivable shift after the debate. It might have entrenched some people. Nobody's not going to vote for Biden that was going to before, and Trump didn't gain any, right? So again, the wailing and gnashing of teeth, by all measure, it should have cadavered um, Biden's campaign. It should have. If what everybody on at Pod Save America and the other places, if that was true on a public level, and I don't mean the punditry, I mean on a public level, that should have wiped him out, right? It should have by all measure. If it was that bad, right? If it was as terrible as everybody said, and everybody, but it absolutely did not. That's right, Bonnie. It did not. That's amazing. One that speaks more to what a weak candidate Donald Trump ultimately is. And I got to tell you, like of all the voters who've said, he's too old to run, and they're still going to vote for him. Doesn't matter. And we've talked. What I was saying before was we talked about a number of stories about Trump that should have wiped him out a long time ago and don't. And they're not about his slurred speech, his forgetfulness, his making up of facts, whether he's lying or just forgetting or creatively forgetting or whatever the shit. None of that seems to disqualify him. So fuck you. I'm going to apply the same standard to Biden. 90 minutes is not going to make me go against the fact that he managed to get an infrastructure bill passed, which is saving lives and will save lives well into the future. Again, Biden as a president, and as an old man, is planting trees he never expects to sit under the shade of, whereas Trump is in it for himself. And Trump is an absolute weakling. Now, here's one of the other things that came out. And this is not something I have said for the last kind of 72 hours, particularly around how the immunity thing could go. And I continue to think it's not as big a problem as a lot of people do. I'm not catastrophizing. I do think that a future Bush Cheney ticket or Donald Trump himself would take advantage of the immunity that they perceive themselves to have under the presidency and would be very creative about how they used official acts to do terrible things. No question. It doesn't make those terrible things illegal. And if a court still has the right to go through the process of deciding what's official acts and what's personal, then we still have some sense of law in this. This is not for all the King Biden jokes I was making, the law doesn't effectively say that. It just makes it harder, right, to establish what that boundary is. And you know that the Trumps of the world or the Cheneys of the world would take great advantage of it. That's what's concerning about it. We need to tighten the law, or maggots will find a way to weasel through. That's genuinely concerning. But this is, like specifically, in the case of Trump, there there's yet another reason to not elect him, and that is the Supreme Court. They're probably whoever the next president is, and it will be Biden, is gonna put two people on the Supreme Court. Alito and Thomas are gone during the next cycle. And specifically, there will be a huge push on the Democratic side to remind everybody that Joe Biden will codify Roe v. Wade into law if we give him enough Democrats in the House and Senate, and Donald Trump will absolutely sign a national abortion ban that does not take into account the rape, incest, or the life of the mother. No question, no matter what he says. Okay, so look at that. Look at the I dissent part. Absolutely. So let me show you something. One of the other stories that's coming up is this bit right here. So over the last, and this has nothing to do, okay, with Biden. I believe that the immunity ruling, as far as official acts, does give Biden more leeway legally than he might have believed he had up till now in terms of quote unquote spying on someone's campaign. Because if you believe someone is a legitimate threat or is in contact with foreign sources or is acting as a shadow government or any of the shit that Reagan did with the Iranians or Trump did, is doing with the Saudis or the Russians or even the Chinese at this point, right now, whereas the president may have had this ability before, the belief in Democratic circles was you absolutely wouldn't do this. And again, Obama's White House did not spy on Trump's campaign at all, nor did Biden's on when he was incoming. I don't know what the fuck that is, but now they kind of absolutely could, because certainly under the official acts as president, guaranteeing that an adjudicated rapist never gets his hands on women's rights ever again as a presidential duty, I got to say it ranks right up there. Now, what's the biggest deal that's come out of this stuff? The Epstein dump. Again, this is not an action that the Biden administration took to release these documents around the Epstein flight logs or the grand jury testimony, the transcripts of the grand jury testimony, and all the stuff that went into it. This was an act of Ron DeSantis. By the way, less than a month, this is all coming out, less than a month after Trump, in his interview with Fox and Friends, said he would not release the Epstein files and he would be very careful because a lot of innocent people might get scooped up in this, right? There'd be a lot of fake news out there and blah, blah, blah. So he would definitely, 9/11 for sure. JFK, absolutely. Epstein, not so much. Now, the Biden administration doesn't have to do anything to release this stuff because Florida just did. Florida has the right to, and they passed this law that would release this stuff. And the stuff that is coming out about Donald Trump, including the accusation that he sexually assaulted two minor children while he was with Epstein, and and again, this did not go through a regular court of law because people ran interference for him in this process. But the guy who read this and attacked, by the way, the victims as prostitutes because they were minors being paid by Jeffrey Epstein. And let me just say for the record, a minor cannot be a prostitute. A minor is a victim. Okay? Even if they eat food paid for with the funds that they were paid for sex, they're a child. End of story. Zero debate. You can't look at a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old and say you were a prostitute. No, they were trafficked at best, and at worst, I guess, and concurrently, I don't even know why you'd have to say concurrently sexually assaulted. Period. They're children. That's the rule. That's the law. End of discussion. And the prosecutors in this particular case attacked the victims, and in some cases, calling them prostitutes, because Epstein paid them and recruited them in the same way that minor gang members get used as target people or as as spotters or as hit persons because they will get a lesser sentence, those kind of things. That incorporating them into this is a way of using children who are easily manipulated to do criminal acts because the consequences will be lower. But again, zero excuses, zero. But the prosecutors in this case accuse these children of being prostitutes. In this case, it's in the transcripts. And this prosecution and the plea deal that came from it was orchestrated by Alex Acosta. Alex Acosta was was let's see if I can find that. Hold on, give me 1 second. Chat room. I think I have. Where is it? I'll just look it up again. Um, mhm. Uh, this guy, here we go. This is Alex Acosta. This is in 2020. Listen, look at the wording on this. This is Trump's DOJ, by the way. This is Bill Barr. This is the DOJ for Bill Barr. DOJ review finds Alec Acosta used poor judgment in Jeffrey Epstein deal. A Department of Justice review found that Alex Acosta, President Donald Trump's former labor secretary, exercised poor judgment when, as U.S. Attorney in Florida, he gave sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein a non prosecution agreement, but the review did not find that Acosta or other prosecutors engaged in professional misconduct. Gee, I wonder why. Fish stinks from the head, maybe? The review from the department's Office of Professional Responsibility also found that Acosta had used poor judgment when he failed to notify the girls and young women who alleged were sexually abused by Epstein about the decision to not prosecute the multimillionaire on federal charges. Acosta resigned as labor secretary in July of 2019, less than a week after federal prosecutors in Manhattan unsealed an indictment charging Epstein with running a sex trafficking operation in which he sexually abused dozens of underage girls. The new charges drew scrutiny of the Justice Department's handling of an investigation a decade earlier when Acosta was U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. Epstein died by suicide in federal jail. A Miami Herald investigation published in 2018, which helped kickstart the New York inquiry, described the plea deal negotiated by Acosta as the deal of a lifetime. For Epstein, obviously, because, for the girls that were victimized, it was, I guess, a nightmare of a lifetime. Let me be let's review. Let's roll back, chat room, if we could. Let's be abundantly clear. Donald Trump appointed the guy who, by all accounts, gave Jeffrey Epstein a sweetheart deal where he was allowed to let himself out of jail, basically a key to the jail where he could come and go as he pleased. He was allowed work release, which whenever he decided he was working, that's what qualified. That deal was given to him by Acosta, Alex Acosta. Donald Trump, a man who has never apparently lived more than a 9-minute cab ride from Jeffrey Epstein's house since he's been living in his own residences, anything that wasn't built by his father, namely Trump Tower and Mar-a-Lago, hired Alex Acosta, the man who gave Jeffrey Epstein a sweetheart deal that gave him the ability to continue to sexually assault minors while serving his sentence, and protected him from federal prosecution for interstate sex trafficking crimes. Donald Trump rewarded that guy with a job in his cabinet as labor secretary. Now let's think for a second. What qualifications does a U.S. attorney for the district in Florida, what qualifications do they have to be labor secretary? At all? Any U.S. attorney? What in the ever loving hell is somebody who was a U.S. attorney doing, running the um, becoming labor secretary? What does that have to do with anything? It sounds like he gave them basically a no-show job in the Trump administration because nobody gave a shit about labor while Trump was in office. That's what it, and it's, I don't know any other excuse for it. Now, will Jake Tapper or any of these folks call in Alex Acosta with these new documents coming out for another interview? Do you think he'll show up? Right? Where, honestly, beyond the fact that this guy got a job in the Trump White House that he was not qualified for, how is that anything other than a reward for keeping his mouth shut? And by the way, he would have gotten away with it if these other documents in 2019 hadn't come out and drawn renewed scrutiny to the fact that, oh my God, the guy that Donald Trump hired to be his labor secretary, random as shit, um, negotiated a deal with Jeffrey Epstein where he could let himself out of jail, where he continued to sexually assault minors during that period of time. Is anybody going to revisit any of that shit at all? I mean, this is not, let me tell you, This is not about a bad debate performance for 90 minutes where the president who'd been flying back and forth clearly had a cold, all that kind of stuff, and the next day was completely fine. It has nothing to do with that. This is on a totally separate scale. By the way, Donald Trump lost the debate. I'm just telling you. If you lie, I got to say, if you lie over 10 times, you lose the debate. If you lie 30 plus times, you're just a liar who doesn't even belong on the stage. And never mind the gibberish about what we had H2O. Like, get the fuck out of here. Yes, minor children. Well, there should be no confusion about this. Don't. By the way, don't play ambiguity with games with me about Epstein. I will state off the top that he was a child rapist, that he was a human trafficker, and all of that is 100% inexcusable. Period. End of story. Fuck you. And if anybody, by the way, if anybody on the flight logs participated in that shit with him, they go. I don't care if I liked them before or if I voted for them before. Bye bye. I have no attachment to going, oh, wouldn't it be a shame? Fuck that. Like, who even thinks like that? Right? Yes, 14-year-old girls are not consenting adults, period. Right. You cannot be engaged in prostitution when you're 14. You can be trafficked, but you cannot engage in it yourself because you cannot make those kind of decisions. You are a child. 100% fuck you, don't care. Bye. Zero. I'm unlike other people. If I'm hoodwinked about something, I'm not ashamed of myself because somebody else was able to manipulate or use my better nature as a way of getting ahead. That doesn't mean my impulses towards a better nature are bad or whatever. It's absurd, especially if it's information I don't have at the time. The same should apply to Donald Trump, one would think. And I don't know, like I swear to God, I think the QAnon thing was a psyop at this point by Mike Flynn because they knew all this child sex trafficking stuff was in Trump's background and they decided to try and get out ahead of it with this absolute insanity that he would somehow, a guy who participated in it with Epstein, right? I don't know, like it's just grotesque. It's friggin' grotesque. So for the record, I'm still a proud Biden voter. I'm going to vote for him this fall. I'm not concerned at all. I know he can do the job, and I don't have to have the burden of worrying about the fact that I might be voting for someone who flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane because of the three dudes that are running. Joe Biden's the only one who doesn't show up on the Epstein logs. By the way, he's also the only one who hasn't had a child or a minor under his care have to come out and say, I was sexually assaulted by this person. I'm sure some of you have seen the RFK Jr. stuff about the babysitter that was working in his house that she walks into her bedroom. He's in there shirtless reading her diary, asks her to put oil on his back, like lotion. The babysitter they had, the sort of live-in nanny at their house. Good Lord. Yeah, the barbecue dog. Like I don't know. I'm sure he's just upset he can't make Kristi Noem his running mate because he's already picked Shanahan, whose entire goal in life is to get rid of IVF. By the way, you don't think the IVF lady won't pass an abortion ban as well? You don't think Kennedy Shanahan won't pass? Um, will even try to get Roe v. Wade codified into law so that women have a right to medical care that is between them and their doctor. First of all, they're not going to sign that. You don't think the dude who put Shanahan on as his VP, again, whose cause celeb is getting rid of IVF, you don't think they're going to outlaw abortion as well? How did Marianne ever do that to you? No. Yeah, women's voting rights are next. I mean, look at, and again, none of this is new. None of it. All of this stuff, like uh, I forget when I first heard Rush Limbaugh say this. It might have been a recording that I heard in 2002 from like the late 90s, that all of our problems in this country started when women got the vote. And he wasn't kidding. People wrote it off as shock jock shit, but then it gets written into the Heritage Foundation's, Project 2025. Yeah. Yeah, that's and again, I will say this is my own personal opinion, but looking back at who RFK Jr. is as a human being, and again, I'm not really concerned about him taking votes from Biden. He will not. If he's going to continue to take votes from Trump, that's not a concern. But in looking at the stuff that came out in that article, which I read, and seeing his recent interview, I think it was on the Hill. I stand by my theory that his past as an environmental lawyer fighting for the rights of the average person to have clean water against big chemical companies or what have you was a PR fabrication by the Kennedy family to try and rehab his image and get him back on the straight and narrow so that he wouldn't wreck the entire image of the Kennedys. Yeah. So yeah. Uh, uh, um, where did you hear that Biden's thinking of stepping? He's not. Biden is not thinking of stepping down. All bullshit. There's going to be this scattered, like, sources say nonsense for like the next week and a half. It's all going to go. It's all going to go away. I'm telling you, like, all this talk of him stepping down and all this shit is going to fade in the next, like, 7 days. I told you this spike would come, right? Like, right after when we reviewed the debate. But the polls are the polls, and we're getting to the point where the polls will create an illusion that that will make people feel like it's real more so than people's genuine reaction to the actual debate. Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of people are saying stuff. Exactly. People are saying he's sundowning. No, he's not. Because I mean, again, the hangout at the Waffle House afterwards was after sundown. He's not sundowning. Or and the idea is that they've talked about this like the work day or whatever, that it's like, whatever, 8 a.m. to 4 or some shit like that. That doesn't stop. Like, again, Trump's thing was just he would stay up all night and sleep till 11 for executive time, right? You need human beings need 8 hours of sleep. The argument that somebody older might even need a nap in the afternoon. Shit, I need a nap in the afternoon sometimes. We all do, and we're not doing the kind of like life changing decisions that most people are making. All of them do this. It's not a question. The thing is, what kind of decisions do they make in ahead of time so that they don't have to white knuckle the government all the time. One of the big things that they were using sort of against him after the debate was, what if you had 90 minutes or whatever if there's a nuclear launch, or 9 minutes to make a decision. I think it was on if there's a nuclear attack from someplace. Yeah, well, only an asshole makes that decision, like, at the time. Yeah, that's why I'm not worried about Biden. They put plans in place for everything. Donald Trump would make a knee-jerk reaction to stuff, but Biden and any capable leader will go, all right, what are our options in these certain things? Like, what if we have if something blows up with Iran right now, what are our, five options there that we're going to go with if this happens, this happens, this happens, and this happens. And then they put like strategic plans in place and capable people in charge of it. I mean, the idea that the CEO runs down to the manufacturing floor and goes, this lug nut's loose," is stupid. And if that's how you run things, your company's going to fall apart. This micromanaging shit is ridiculous. So again, you're going to see the cascading impact of this for a couple of days. I've said it, but it's going to go away. It's silly. So shit. Now I want a nap. Sorry, I'm going to make everybody want to take a nap. It's good for you. It's okay. And by the way, let me tell you something. Especially Silicon Valley, is all awash with power naps and sleep pods and all kinds of shit like that, and maximizing your sleep and devices that help you sleep through the night without interruption and blah blah blah. And they're all on YouTube. There's like the talk of this all the time. So the idea that somehow those folks are going, "What? He needs a nap. Oh my God," is stupid because they're like, "Yes, I've charted my diet and nap and coding to maximize." Like it's just silly. Like again, the overreaction is part of the sort of wrestling like nature of the media around stuff. And the shocking part, I think more for most people, is quite frankly the fact, for me anyways, is the story that people aren't that people are reacting to thinking that the Epstein stuff hasn't got legs, but the debate, which again, more people have watched the clip of Biden shaking hands with the dude in the Waffle House than watched the actual debate. And the clips of the debate look better than the debate. So yeah. Mm. Also, the cases against Trump, the idea that he's going to get like the E. Jean Carroll case, so he'll use some of this, the ruling by the Supreme Court, as a way to delay some things. But by no means is it going to have an impact on the how they actually play out. Yeah, agreed. I think one thing we can come to is that naps are indeed awesome. Now, I'm going to jump back to this stuff because a lot of this stuff about Trump and Epstein, there's video of them walking through his house because they filmed it to see if the witnesses, the girls, the children that were giving testimony were had rightly described the environment. If they've actually been in the house, that kind of stuff. You have to walk through. It's the same reason Stormy Daniels described the hotel room and what kind of shampoo Trump uses and what the fucking his little dop kit that he has, right? All that stuff is sort of crucial. Whoops. Yeah. All that stuff is crucial to the to evidence. And turns out they all described it just fine. Now, I have been, there's obviously a lot of talk about the flight logs aspects of things, and that um, when they talk about the flight logs again, not only did Trump show up on the flight logs more times than he said, at least 7 more times that we know of, but also RFK Jr. showed up repeatedly. The question I have is how do we get the flight logs for every plane that landed on Little St. James or on Greater St. James, where I think the other airport is, that has a boat that goes to Little St. James, the island that he owned, um, on the regular? How do we get those records? Yeah. How Circuit Judge Luis Delgado calls Jeffrey Epstein the most infamous pedophile in American history as he releases the transcripts. Again, uh, I have no problem with jettisoning everybody who was ever engaged in this stuff with him or who played footsie with him after they knew. If you found out you knew he was engaged in this kind of stuff and it came to light for you that you ever revisited that place, that's enough for me too. Just the lack of judgment is enough to jettison somebody. You want to talk about a reason to cancel somebody? Knock yourself out. I don't care. But the double standard around Trump and this shit is the most stunning. That is the biggest story of this entire election cycle, if not 2016, right? There is absolutely no excuse for why this is just kind of, well, maybe, I don't know, shrug. Donald Trump wished Ghislaine Maxwell well from the press room at the White House. This is a woman who was found guilty of sex trafficking minors and using them to sex traffic other minors, and he referred to Jeffrey Epstein as her boyfriend. I don't know. I like that part. I think if you want to talk about journalistic malpractice, that's it. The refusal to dig down into this stuff by the very people who I guess are afraid of the maggot QAnon crowd, right? That coming after them, or because again, I have you know how Trump has threatened lawsuits against people over the years for shit talking about, mainly about his monetary worth, right? He's all dropped it, right? Josh says, I still remember the look on your face when he said that. Yeah, I was stunned. Um, yeah, but Donald Trump has threatened to sue people for his for saying he's worth less money than he says he is, as defamation. Insofar as I know, and please correct me if you guys can find this, I have never seen him um, threaten to sue anybody for talking about anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein. Not a thing. And he's been accused of a lot around that. But he's, I feel like Dershowitz threatened one of the victims because he felt like, well, the only person who knows is Jeffrey Epstein and he's dead, or maybe Dershowitz knows who had the tapes of it and knows those tapes are gone now, right? But he never does. Yeah. Yeah, he threatened to sue. Yes, he threatened to sue every woman who made allegations against him in 2016. He didn't sue any of them. That's true because of again discovery, and he didn't want to dig deeper. He was just trying to scare them off that that they would have to deal with the maggots, or they would have to deal with if he did become president at that time, he was gonna he could attack them, or he had the money to just bury them in litigation and embarrass them, or make them look, I don't know, like false accusers. And so it's obviously concerns something that sexual assault victims always have to deal with, and these are adult women. But he never went after anybody who said that what was the stuff that was going on related to Jeffrey Epstein and him. Nothing. Ivana was Epstein's the theory. Um, yeah. Well, no. Again, here's what I think. And I was talking to my mom about this yesterday because families gathering together. That Noel Casler had an NDA with NBC, I guess, around The Apprentice, and so he'd be in legal trouble if he talked about what happened during The Apprentice. But I think there should be a law. How about this? You know me and solutions. I offer this to everybody that if you run for office, all your NDAs get invalidated. How about that? That I think there should be effectively whistleblower protection for anybody if you're going to run for office. And it could be higher office. You could set it as a standard and make it House or Senate. Federal office. If you a federal rule, you can run for mayor, nobody gives a shit. I don't know. But if you're running for federal office, any NDAs that you have with former employees or anybody else becomes public. It nullifies it because the public has a right to know who they're voting for. I would be. I think that's a brilliant play. I think that should be a law. And if they go, well, nobody's going to run for office anymore. Well, then fuck you, buddy. I'll run. And even situations where people probably thought I should have had an NDA. Fine, we'll litigate it in public. What's the worst that happens? You have to make your case to the American people that somebody maligned you or talked shit about you, or you had to fire a bad employee and that person talked shit about you. Tough. That's how the public has a right to know who's representing them. And if you don't represent them because of how you've acted in the past, then you shouldn't be in the office. I happen to think it's a genius, honestly. Um, yeah, I think and there should be no. Certainly, it should be unlawful to have NDAs for campaign in terms of interoffice workings or what have you during the campaign, that kind of stuff. Like obviously, you if somebody you could have a non-competition clause where somebody who works for a campaign can't go to another campaign and tell them where you're going to do outreach and shit like that. So they can't send somebody over to subvert you, act like they're a volunteer, get a job, and then they figure out what your plan for the campaign is and then go leak it to the other side or something. That's a non-competition um, clause for employees when you're working on. Fine, but an NDA, no way. Now, you promised the orange idiot won't get elected? Yes. hmm Again, I got to tell you, Trump's been largely off the radar the last couple of days, but for a couple of um, like minor posts, I think. Um, he's, obviously somebody around him, and he's only fine. I guess uh, he's done a couple of radio interviews or something like that, which is just, par for the course with him. But I think the idea is that the people around him are like letting the people who are attacking Biden let them eat the airwaves for a little while. Don't give him anything else because the day after he fucked up so bad that everybody just kind of responded to it and went, "Oh well, we're back to square one." He's going berserk on True Social again. Hold on, let's see if let's go to think there we go. Accepts. There you go. I mean, here's the thing too. He doesn't actually post a bunch. It's yeah, ads and polls. He's not doing that part of it. Um, yeah, this is the same stuff they've been doing all along. I mean, he put in the total exoneration. Here you go. This is. By the way, immunity from prosecution doesn't mean you're exonerated. It doesn't mean you're less guilty. This is the same thing he's been pulling with the statute of limitations. Total exoneration. It's clear the Supreme Court's brilliantly written and historic decision ends all of crooked Joe Biden's witch hunts against me, including White House DOJ-inspired civil hoaxes in New York. No, it doesn't. All of these unfair charges represent the worst level of election interference in the country. It must be understood. I was totally and completely innocent from the beginning of this giant, highly illegal scam, and long before the Supreme Court's decision was released. The impact of immunity ruling is a loud and clear signal for the justice system. I am proud to be an American. Okay, yeah, it's not anywhere near what it says. This is the kind of stuff that shows up on a fundraiser. No. Trump canceled an interview because they wouldn't give him the questions before. Yeah. And Biden's sitting down with Stephanopoulos. This afternoon, the AP released an interview with Joe Biden, unedited from before, like from 3 months ago, or was it 6 months? 3 months ago? 3 months ago. Um, and obviously before the debate, and they released it unedited so people could see Biden sitting down and talking the whole time without any cuts. They cut out, I think, a minute of just like chatter with staff because he was supposed to do 20 minutes. The staff said we only have 10. He went ahead and did the full 20 minutes. Staff said they had somewhere else to be, and Biden continued on with the interview. So we'll watch that full thing. I watched a little bit of it, and I was like, nope, I want to watch it with you guys all the way through. Yeah. So but overall, let's see. Yeah, Stormy Daniels is a special commodity. I agree. Let's see. Well, when it says when I disagree with his policy, maybe you should get into politics, right? All eyes. John needs his. Yeah. Uh, Trump has a feeling he may not win the presidency. Yeah. Well, here's the other thing, and this is I'll let you guys go on this, and I'll see you this afternoon for the regular show since Phil can't be with us. I'm just going to do the hour this morning. Um, and again, we're going to watch that full interview later on today of Biden, and I'll show you. Um, as much as I saw, which was just a snippet of it, seemed like completely reasonable as an interview. Um, you are going. I said this the night of. Never underestimate the power of Donald Trump to fuck up a free lunch. And the same guy that bankrupted a casino and his airline and Trump steaks and Trump water and Trump wine and whatever. Uh, that same guy, but a diminished version, is running this campaign. He's not gonna make it. And I will say that there were those around Biden, it seems, who were concerned that he wasn't taking the age issue seriously enough. And this acted as a wake-up call. And I think he is more focused on that now than he maybe wouldn't have been otherwise, and would have maybe given us a moment like the debate closer to, because he wasn't taking it as seriously and he was busy being president and he had written off, Trump possibly, in some ways. Uh, yeah. Um, I actually think it's going to be, in retrospect, beneficial. I looked up. Okay, I'll leave you with this. This morning, in talking about the Epstein stuff, I went back and looked at a several stories about Trump's plane. So Trump's plane, for those of you, let's see, it might have been on my iPad, so maybe I can pop it up on there for you guys. Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to know is, like, how do you frigging find the flight logs for a private plane beyond the Epstein ones that have been listed? An airline or a private owner has to keep their flight logs. I'm sure we're going to discover that Trump's both of his planes, I want to say the 727 he had, and then this 757, which is a hunk of junk. Um, the law Trump organization is supposed to keep those logs. I'm going to guess they're gone forever. They've been shredded or can't be found. I'm just saying. Um, plane. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, where is it? Yeah. So there was an article in the New Yorker. Let's see if I could send this to. Yeah. There you go. That. Yeah, here. Yeah. That Trump. The name of the article, and it'll pop up in a second. Give me a second. For a billionaire, Trump flies a crappy plane. The truth about his vintage Boeing 757. Now, a couple of things is that there's a bit about in the article about what happened with his little Trump airline, and that the Trump airline that they had was eventually, it went into probate or whatever, and they had to it was foreclosed on, and they had to surrender all their accounts, and just the materials, and like all the planes were sold, and that's how they made up some of the money or whatever. And that he had, I guess, these he had a 727 before or whatever, and like these that's the kind of like these little Trump Shuttle was the name of the airline, and it collapsed. It was just there was no market for it. It was just another instance of Trump being like, rich and nuts, as it were, at a certain point, and it failed miserably. But one of these planes, I guess his plane, this one, um, was one of the planes that they had, and he just kind of bought it back, and they had already done some of the conversion to turn it into this like shuttle planes in the Northeast for rich assholes, right? And he bought one of them back because they were on the cheap, and apparently he paid way more for it um, than he should have, like an asshole. Um, this in this article, he goes to hear Trump tell it. He said it was great to go from Trump Force One to Air Force One. It was a step down. He goes, Air Force One is a step down from his 757 in every way, which is just fucking ridiculous. But so there is according to Bloomberg, he's worth 6.5 billion. This is a 20, I want to say this is a 2020 article. Um, the let's see, the seven, yeah, here it is. So in 1988, Trump paid 365 million for Eastern Air Shuttle, this company, a division of Eastern Airlines that ran short hops between New York, Boston, and Washington D.C. on a fleet of 17 obsolete Boeing 727s, renaming the operation Trump Shuttle. Oh, let me move this over so you can see it a little better. There we go. Renaming it Trump Shuttle. Uh, he tried to turn the bargain carrier into a luxury brand with maple veneer interiors and a free in-flight telephone calls, but the venture defaulted on its debts in 1992 and was repossessed by the banks. Hello. Um, so, by the way, when Eric says, we've never missed a payment or any of that stuff, let me read that sentence again. The venture defaulted on its debts in 1992 and was repossessed by the banks. And again, read this sentence at the top. He paid 365 million for Eastern Air Shuttle. No, he fucking did not. He did not pay 365 million for Eastern Shuttle, Eastern Air. He got a loan to buy it for 365 and he defaulted on that loan and the entire airline was repossessed by the banks. Donald Trump did not buy an airline. Banks, for some ungodly reason, thought that was a good loan, gave him money to do it, and he bought it with other people's money, and they lost it. They lost their money. You understand? Even the top of this article is fucking nuts. He paid $365 million for Eastern Air Shuttle? Nope. The bank, God knows which one, what, probably Deutsche Bank in the early days of the Russians figuring out how they could manipulate somebody like him, right? Paid 365 million for this, and it failed. As soon as Trump got his hands on it, it failed. By the way, by all measure, Eastern Air Shuttle was doing just fine. This is classic 80s like rich asshole buying something up and destroying it or selling it off for parts in the Mitt Romney Bain Capital model. At least he would have made money on it probably. Trump did not pay $365 million for Eastern Air Shuttle. Whoever was dumb enough to loan him the money did, and he defaulted on the loans and it was repossessed. Okay, 5 years later, Trump repurchased one of those 727s for his own personal use. And again, repurchased with what? With what? Did he purchase it with cash? Did he get another magic loan from someplace? All right. Had the interior redecorated in mahogany and silk. Ugh. It was aboard his plane that his future wife Melania Knaus was photographed lounging in the nude for GQ. Trump kept the plane until 2010, when the earnings he received from The Apprentice allowed him to acquire a much bigger plane, the 757. Now, come here. Come here for a second, everybody. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. So Donald Trump's allegedly a billionaire because of his business acumen, right? He's a super smart businessman, and he owns properties all over the place, and he's rich as shit, and he's rich, and he's rich. And he's rich because he deserves to be rich, and he's smart, and he does great deals. Then why do you have to get a game show hosting job to afford this piece of shit 757? Now, here's the thing. While a video on Trump's website called the plane a luxurious new 757, it was already decades old when he bought it. It was in 2011. Sorry, yeah, 2011. He bought a plane from 1991. Um, Already out of production for years by the time Trump bought his, the 757 is an aircraft of a different era. Unlike modern planes, which use computers to control flight surfaces on the wings and tail, the 757 uses cables and push rods. If he really did pay $100 million for the plane, by the way, nobody knows, as he has been widely reported, he overpaid for it. He overpaid for it even more than he did for the Plaza Hotel. When it was new, Trump's plane would have cost around $50 million or $115 million in today's dollars. But like most vehicles, a plane steadily decreases in value. Based on current used aircraft listings, a 757-200 of Trump Air Force One vintage is today worth about $5 to $8 million. Can we just again? Um, let's just enjoy that for a second. I got to open the chat room. Mr. Mega Rich, right, has a plane that you could buy. Somebody could buy the exact same plane that he's flying right now for somewhere between $5 to $8 million. Put what, 2 million into it? In the same article, they call it a jalopy, and compared to what other billionaires are flying, a Greyhound bus. So again, on all fronts, there are a myriad of stories that just got a wash because it's Trump and because he works the ref and says, they're going to attack me for this, and then when you attack him for that because it deserves attacking, he can go, well, I told you, that's fake news. $5 to $8 million. By the way, hit that like, give us the subscribe. The Venmo thing is right there. Support the show because if I can't buy 666 Fifth Avenue, I'm at least going to buy a 1991 757 and paint it to look exactly like Trump Force One and park next to him at airports and see if he accidentally gets on it. By the way, Trump's going to lose, Biden's going to win. Everybody take a deep breath. And I will see you guys this afternoon. Aren't you guys a little tired that I'm right all the time? Well, tough. Get used to it.